How do we start off this thing again?
Yeah, we did no intros.
He goes, "Hey, I'm Andrew,
Hey, I'm Shane.
and welcome to End Their Weekend, episode 4."
It's been a little while between drinks, hasn't it?
It has
It's
been a
been
little bit between our things. I think a lot has happened in the last almost. Was I think it's been almost 2 months since our last podcast.
yeah, a few things have got in the way, but it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. There's been a lot of exciting news, and I think we decided that it was about time we got off and started recording and seeing, having a chat about the news. So I guess the biggest news we'll probably talk about is actually probably the change of government. So we know the biggest thing when it's come to electric car and electric car policies and all the things that have happened is we basically started this channel because of the outgoing Prime Minister. He made an announcement a few years ago saying that electric cars would end the weekend, and that's why we're here where we are today. So I guess, yeah, well, I guess it was a bit of a spill, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that both the two major parties have had I think, a little bit of a reckoning of sorts. Labor still got in, but I don't think even they got in unscathed. So a lot of teal independents across the country. So I guess there's a number of voters out there that have made their views thought on the major parties, and I
They're
think
calling this,
in the context of electric cars, hopefully this will help really drive maybe some charging infrastructure, some incentives at a federal level, not just the states. So, a few of the states have done pretty good, but yeah, let's see what comes.
yeah, exactly, and I think they were calling this election the climate change election because it's the point where people have decided this is an issue that we can no longer ignore, and they want the government to take change. And I think that's why we had so many teal independents and all that kind of thing come into. I think we've written a couple of articles on the website as well, if you want to check them out. But yeah, we've been keeping on the articles at this stage. The podcast is one thing we've just haven't had time to record. I think just a lot has happened in both our lives.
We'll see if we can get some rhythm going. And but yeah, so federal election, change of government, big news, but maybe some more pressing news that's just hit the I guess the airwaves today. The
Model
model
Y, Model
Model
Y. So
Y.
we have in our little show notes that we like to do before we start these is let's talk about the Model Y upcoming release. And sure enough, what happened today? The Model Y is available for pre-order today.
It's pretty exciting. I think a lot of people have been waiting for this for a long time. The crossover SUV format, pretty popular. Tesla's as the dominant EVs in Australia at the moment and worldwide. Model Y is just sort of killing it everywhere. I think we're unlucky not to get it earlier, probably because of, I guess, the recent lockdowns in China, and I guess supply chain issues worldwide. But the books are open.
Yeah, the books are open, and one of us may have pre-ordered a Model Y.
We
So look,
might
it doesn't mean I'll be.
might both be legit electric vehicle owners soon instead of a poser
Yeah,
amongst us.
exactly. Look, we'll see what happens. Obviously, they at the moment when I've pre-ordered, it said expected time between August and I think it was October. So look, I mean, given the amount of lockdowns and supply chain issues and shipping issues, look, may or may not happen within that time frame, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to trying to sell some old cars to try and fund the Model Y purchase. But yeah, I managed to get a pre-order pretty early this morning. So
Congratulations there. Looking forward to it. So I think when I first looked at the website, I thought it said August to October as well. But when I most recently looked at August to November, so I wonder if that's an automated system that's
maybe it's already being
bumping that out. But the Facebook forums are going nuts at the moment for Model
Yeah,
Y.
the
So
rumor mill went wild last night. I was just before I went to sleep. I normally check, what all the latest news feeds, and I was looking at the Model 3, Model Y owners page, and sure enough, there was everyone saying, "Oh, orders are going to drop. We've seen, Model Ys spotted around Australia now, and apparently there's a couple of dealerships, or I don't know if you call them dealerships here. They're just, I guess, showrooms you would call them here." saying that they were taking delivery of Model Ys. I think there was also an article someone wrote that said they saw it on the freeway on the way up to Queensland. So there's been a few sightings of Model Ys in Australia, which I guess fueled the rumor mill, which turned out to be true today.
Turned out to be true. I guess a broken clock's right twice a day, and eventually the Friday. People always said it was going to be happen on a Friday, and I wasn't sure if they'd do it on a long weekend, but maybe it's a good time. People have a bit of time, and they'll probably feel they're going to have no issue selling these things. So hopefully, Giga Shanghai is back to full capacity, which I think it's quite close to.
Yeah, probably the only thing
Yeah.
I would note when I ordered it was, I guess, from my point of view, 0 to 60 time extremely slow, 7 seconds. I'm hoping that isn't played down because I know from driving your Shane, it's a bit quicker than I reckon they mentioned on the site. It definitely felt like a quicker car, so I'm hoping the Model Y. Well, I have no doubt it will be slower. I'm just hoping it won't be that slow. So we'll see.
I think the 2022 Model 3, I think is it 6.1 seconds or 5.9?
I think it was six point something. Yeah.
Mine's 5.4 for the 2021 version, but yeah, I was tempted to put an order in for a Y today, but then I looked at the standard range, or the rear-wheel drive as they call it, and 6.9, like, oh, is that going to be too much of a loss? And I think it would be. So maybe I'll
Well,
hang tight. I'll hang tight for the long range and maybe upgrade in a year or two whenever, if we get the long range.
and look, given fuel prices, I can't see these things really going down in value too much anyway. I think the demand for the Model Y will continue to rise. I mean, the performance people like me might not be enough, but I think your average everyday family, it's probably a perfect car for, right? I mean, nice and big. You don't have the back seat. You have the back seats that go down. You don't have the rear parcel shelf. So it means you can fit a lot more. So I think it'll be attractive to families. So look, I'm not too worried. If I do find after 3 months I don't like it, then you can always get something else.
I think you'll enjoy it, particularly with petrol prices at the moment.
Which is probably a good segue into what's happening in the news at the moment. So obviously, fuel excise is ending soon. So obviously, before the outgoing Liberal government went out to try and ease pressure, and because it was, I think they were also like, well, we don't have to manage the budget after this election, so we will cut fuel excise in half. So at the pump, when you normally go fill up, it's typically, I think, was it 60 cents a litre or 40 cents a litre? I'd have to find what the number is exactly. Goes directly to the government. So that price that you pay at the pump has a tax. So not only do you pay GST, you pay the fuel excise. You're getting it. It's the only thing that's taxed on a tax. So they, as a relief for families, because fuel prices were heading towards the $2.20 mark, they removed, I think it was 20 or 30 cents off the fuel excise, which is why fuel went cheaper before it went back up again. So funny that it went back up as soon as they removed the fuel excise. But
Yeah,
yeah,
always a bit sus on that, isn't it?
yeah. And I think the ACCC actually did an investigation probably about a year ago saying, yeah, the fuel companies are, they've got us by the balls essentially. Like, right?
And it's the reality of it, right? And we lucked out when we managed to get ours in December last year. Like we didn't do it purely for the ongoing fuel savings per se, like a very nice bonus. But it's just gone nuts the last sort of 2-3 months, hasn't it?
Exactly. So what I'm not looking forward to is in the next 3 months where they turn that fuel excise back on, you're going to be paying $2.30, $2.40 at the pump, if not $2.80. So
and that just compounds all the other cost of living pressures that are going on at the moment. So
interest rates, they've in Australia here, they've put up interest rates 2 times in a row now. So that's going to increase the cost of living, people with large mortgages, because the housing market here went nuts. So that's going to put further pressure on people. They've already got big mortgages, and now they're going to have to pay big interest on those mortgages. Well, we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting times in the next, I think, 6 to 12 months when it comes to cost of living. So I think it all adds up. So we'll see. We'll see how we go.
oh, well, congratulations on the order, and fingers crossed you are getting it this side of Christmas.
Look, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm a little bit doubtful. I'm in my mind. I'm thinking December, but we'll see. If they say August, that's great. That means that they've pretty much got the cars already made and ready to ship. If that's the case, so
Yeah, they must be, but I don't know, that factory when it cranks them out, it's able to get through a lot of cars, but I guess it depends on where the right-hand drive market was in their particular fit out. And they've been in lockdown, working inside the factory for what, almost a month now, I think. So,
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
but fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. All right. So, what else has been in the news lately? One interesting thing that I came across during the last couple of months is the first certified aircraft. So it's a certified aircraft you can buy for small training purposes, but it is an electrically powered aircraft. So I watched a video that was on, I think, Fully Charged was the channel that did a bit of a showcase on what the aircraft can do, and that was quite interesting. They smaller battery, so it's not really required for long range. It's not a long range type plane, but it's interesting to see the technology is there and it's getting it. And I thought one of the interesting things they mentioned in that video was they use almost 50% just getting up,
And
and
once they're there, they, you
once
know,
it's in the air, they barely use anything once they're in the air. So, and then coming down, you're essentially not using any energy coming down. So, I thought that was interesting. So, the majority of the energy used within those planes, um, yeah, is on the takeoff. So it's interesting because it's you watch the video, it's very quiet, it's very not aircraft like, you know what I mean? Um, but one of the key things they pointed out in that video was a lot of smaller airports don't have three-phase charging outputs, and if we want this to become the new norm, part of that is upgrading what we have at airports today, and that's we're talking about smaller aircraft airports, obviously. But they support fast charging. They've got the standard Chatamo chargers, all that kind of stuff. But as they said, the biggest downfall for those aircraft at this stage is just no infrastructure for it. So it was
I guess it's
interesting.
a common theme in the EV world, but it's still pretty exciting because air travel is a big consumer of fossil fuels and outputting emissions. So it's probably going to be a long, hopefully not too long, but it's going to be a while probably before we get passenger airlines onto electric. But yeah, training aircraft, maybe small regional flights. Those hour, 2 hour interstate ones might be an option. And yeah, or I guess hydrogen will probably be a big sell in that space eventually. But yeah, first certified aircraft, very cool.
Yeah, very very cool.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon the regen braking's like on
Look,
probably
there
not?
probably is a little bit of regen when you're coming down. But what I might do is I'll chuck them in the show notes if you're interested in the aircraft. I forget the name of the aircraft right now, so I'll chuck it in the show notes. And if you're interested in watching the video or reading an article, check the show notes. What else is in the news, Shane?
So I think there was some stuff about the Cybertruck. What was going on there? The Aussie taken off from the Aussie pre-order page?
I think it was anything that wasn't US based order. It sounds like they've all been cancelled. I still haven't read any further information as to what Tesla's official stance is. But it sounds like if you had ordered a Cybertruck, that you were basically be getting a refund. No, nobody outside of the US will be getting a Cybertruck anytime soon. I mean, look, I personally didn't think we would get it anyway, just based on the design, right? I mean, if you look at Australian design rules when it comes to the safety of cars and like passengers as well, like we have in America, I don't believe they have a standard for passenger safety. So people that are outside the car, pedestrian safety, sorry. So people outside the car, there must be some level of protection provided by the car manufacturers, whether that's just a low-lying hood or have airbags. I think the Volvos have airbags on the outside. So if you're ever hit
Yeah.
as a pedestrian by a car, Volvo is the car you want to be hit by. But yeah, just looking at those designs, I never thought that car could make it to Australia.
Yeah, it's going to be too big, and not meeting the right standards of safety that we have here, I think. So that's not an official stance, but I think it'd be interesting to see, can Tesla overcome those
And if
issues if they're legit? And
that is the case, do they do a complete redesign, right? Does the design become less polarized, those square body, that looks like a 4-year-old drew in, kindergarten? Like, will it become more of a car shape rather than a, um, I guess that's
futuristic apocalypse Mad Max,
yeah, style.
futuristic Mad Max vehicle. But
Yeah.
I think there'd be a lot of traders that would love to have a Cybertruck.
Yeah, look,
Uh,
I mean, that's definitely one thing that lacks in the market today is a ute, an electric ute. There's nothing in Australia that we can get today. Literally nothing. I mean, yeah, in the states, you've got the Rivian, and you've got the Ford F-150 Lightning. Like they're cars, and they, you look at their sales, their projected sales in the US, and they're going miles, and they're going good guns. Like, you can see it's definitely a desired vehicle, but upping the production to make it more feasible becomes what the issue becomes, right? It's it's
Model
it's
Y
a,
looks open, so I think
it's a
Cybertruck will
start.
get back on there, hopefully.
Yeah, we can only hope for. There were some updates to Queensland Regional Charger announcement. Can you tell us some more about that, Shane?
Yeah, their Queensland government have announced the next phase of their regional charge infrastructure. I think they call it the Queensland Electric Highway. I might get the acronym wrong, but there's been a lot of work done on that already. This is now focusing more inland charges, which is actually something I never really initially thought about when purchasing the car, the charging infrastructure. I had pretty good confidence in Tesla and things like that for a lot of it, but one of the things I'm now more mindful of is that we can get by with smaller batteries in cars and less range if people aren't as concerned about range anxiety. And Australia's a big country, so you can see why people are opting for the long range in some of the configs and things like that. But yeah, really good to see that, not just on the East Coast, that they're actually going to go inland too. And whether it's going to be enough or not, but hopefully, because I think they're only talking in some cases, 2-bay charges. And if, a car club wants to go out to some of these inland areas, and they want to top up, how's logistics of that going to work? But I think anything that's going to get people visiting tourist areas or regions and show that it can be done in an EV is going to be good.
Yeah. So I guess you're probably the best person to talk to, right? You've gone on a couple of larger road trips now. How was that experience being out? I guess because you went to Queensland and country Queensland too, didn't you?
Yeah, so we've so yeah, during the little break we've had on the podcast, we've done a Sydney to Brisbane trip, and some of the surrounding areas around Brisbane. Prior to that, we had done Sydney to Bright in Victoria. So we've now got about 7,000 Ks on the car, and a lot of the chunk of that has been road trips. So I think starting to get a good feel for it. East Coast of Australia is pretty well serviced, both with Tesla and non-Tesla chargers. So as a Tesla owner, I've sort of, and there's a bit of a segue. There's some interesting things on the Facebook forums about Tesla owners maybe copping some grief for using non-Tesla chargers. But I'll put my hand up. We've done that because we get a discount through our roadside assistance, the NRMA. So I would, if there's one convenient, I would use an NRMA affiliated charger. So in the likes of Goulburn or Gundagai on the way down to Victoria. And there's equivalents on the way up north into Queensland. And the Tesla charging infrastructure cannot fall tipped. Have always been able to rock up and have a bay. Charging's quick, it's fast. We've been lucky with the non-Teslas in that we've always been able to get a spot, but I can see the challenge that faces the third-party networks. There's nearly always been a charging bay out of order for some reason on there, and it's just
Is
pure
that
luck that no
really
one else has been there at the same time.
Is that potentially because there is one bay being used and they purposely do it because there's just not enough power to supply? Or
Yeah, I don't know the answer to it. I think I've seen vandalism firsthand. I'm sorry, not seen the actual vandalism in act, but I've seen the aftermath of some vandalism, to the point where like the monitors had sort of been kicked in a bit. So the charging unit was still working, but the uh,
defaced?
monitor was damaged and offline. Someone had cut down the EV charging signs that were there. These were things that are concreted into the ground. Someone had come along with a, I don't know, some sort of diamond cutter or something and cut through the proper steel signs to just, because the signs were still there, just kicked over. Um,
I
it's
just
just,
wonder
yeah.
why. Like, this change is coming whether you like it or not. Like, if you want to be a child about it and go and destroy signs, I mean, who are you really benefiting there?
But yeah, back onto the charging side of things, it was there's a few. We've been lucky. We've always been able to charge. We've never been left stranded. But we've got the standard range, and there was a few times that if one of those third party chargers had to been out of action, I might have been dropping the speed down a little bit to try to make it to the backup charger or things like that. So yeah, I think sport for choice being a Tesla owner currently. But yeah, the more third parties that I get out there, the more the better for people buying other manufacturers' cars, and the more backup options we'll have. Once these are almost at you know, every servo, then it's going to be a heck of a lot better and less anxiety inducing going for a drive. But
I mean, yeah, I've read, I know those posts you're talking about with people. I mean, yeah, that does get me a bit nervous, getting into an electric car, but we'll see. I mean, I don't think we'll have a problem for the most part of it. It's probably just a rare road trip every now and again that I'll probably just have to do a bit better planning. That's all.
And that's the thing, for most people, they're not doing big road trips every other week. So it just takes a little bit more planning currently. Using apps like PlugShare, which we might do maybe a article on or a separate episode to go in a bit more detail, but just, I guess, check the status of the chargers that you're going to. A lot of people will check in through the app to say, hey, I've used this charger, or, bay one was broken, but bay two was working. Here's the sort of speeds I was getting. So generally every charger you'll find will have a few people that are kindly checking in and letting you know if it's still good or not, so that'll help you plan out and just make sure you have some backup options.
Nice.
Mm.
All right. Move on. So I think one of the other big things that came out during the week was the Bluetooth could be hacked on Model 3s and Model Ys. Now, having a read about some of these things that happened, it was more along the lines of a replay attack. So it sounds like essentially what it looks like is somebody would be close by to you. They would have a device that essentially transmits the Bluetooth signal coming from the car over the internet to someone who might be close to you with the key or your phone, and then be able to essentially get in the car, start it, and start driving off. So I have no doubt that Tesla are generally pretty good with this stuff, and they'll have some kind of patch, I'm sure, more sooner rather than later. But look, this kind of attack is not a new kind of attack. This is something that has been vulnerable to even like my older Subaru was vulnerable to this attack, rolling code attacks and all that kind of stuff. Rolling replay attacks, I should say, where you could just do the same thing essentially, have a RF transmitter in your pocket, have it transmitted to somewhere else where the key is, get in the car and start it. I mean, that's a vulnerability in existing key technologies today. So look, whether are you concerned? Probably not. Is the likelihood of, I mean, you've got to be highly technically minded to be able to execute an attack like this. um, but yeah, it's I don't. Are you worried, Shane? I guess.
As a Tesla owner, look, when I first saw it, I thought, oh god, geez. And then when you sort of read into it and go, oh, there's a lot of things that have to go right, I guess, for the attack to be successful, in terms of being in close proximity to both you and the car. But yeah, it's not science fiction hackery stuff like on
Not in
shows
the
like
realm of impossibility. It's definitely doable.
it's definitely doable, and probably with pretty relatively cheap hardware too that you can source from some of these sites that specialize in hacking stuff. But yeah, I'm not overly worried at this point. I'm trying to keep an eye out to see if Tesla acknowledge it or if there's a mitigation in place. But yeah, I'm certainly not going to go back to the key card approach. I'm going to keep using the Bluetooth, and I guess Tesla can track it if it gets stolen, hopefully.
Well, that is right, isn't it? You can always track it if you had to. So all good. So I think the other big news that's come out recently is electricity prices in our area. They're saying essentially that they may almost double in cost of price. So that's it. I guess it'll be an interesting space to watch to see what happens in this space. So yeah, we'll see.
Speaking of, actually, the sun's just dipped, and I better turn the car from charging so fast down so that I'm optimizing my solar charging. But yeah, it's I think electricity's gone up, or most very much likely to go up for the vast majority of people. Even if it doubles, though, I guess trying to put things in perspective, even if you don't have access to solar, you're probably still looking at like a $20 top up compared to whatever you're paying on
Pay
petrol.
150 to fill up at the moment.
Yeah, so I think depends on the size of your battery, how much driving you're doing. But if you're sort of, doing 300 to 400 Ks a week, yeah, you're probably looking at around that $15 to $25 mark, even after the price rises. So
Exactly.
it's certainly going to be more cost effective for a lot of people. And it's a bonus if you got solar then, and you're able to charge from when during daylight hours on a weekend, or if you can manage to keep the car there when the sun's out, then you'll be able to offset a large chunk of that too.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'll be looking at too in the future too. Is getting some solar. I
I
don't
know a
have solar
guy.
at my current place, so I'll probably just be charging off normal things. I mean, all my neighbours around here seem to have solar panels, so I'm sure the power I'm getting will still be from the sun for the most part. But I'll be paying the expensive version, not the cheaper version, because I don't have solar. Anyway, I think we might wrap it up here for this week. And we will try and be a bit more consistent with our future episodes. So keep an eye out on the webpage, intheweekend.com. You can also check out our socials, end underscore the weekend on Insta. And we haven't yet put up a Facebook page, but I think that's on our to-do list to put up a Facebook page.
And I guess congratulations to all those that have put orders down for the Model Y.
Exactly. Yeah, congratulations, and hopefully we all see our orders sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the first one legit on the road, driving around. Yeah. Hopefully it's yours.
We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I'm Andrew.
I'm Shane.
This has been episode 4 of End the Weekend.
Thanks, guys. Bye.